I don't know how to describe it other than like a demon type of sound.
But it's silhouetted, hulking, every bit of 5.5 feet wide, 13 to 14 foot tall, pitch black.
The one thing that ran through my mind when I had this encounter was I don't have a big enough gun.
Your host, two-time witness and field researcher for more than 40 years, William Jevning. Welcome to Creek Devil.
Kind of tell me from the beginning what's been going on there.
At the beginning, the first thing that ever happened was that when I got charged out on the front porch, which I was cleaning house, and I couldn't sleep one night, so I decided to stay up and clean, and that's, because I've got a new grandbaby and all. But anyhow, I was sitting out here cleaning, and it was about, I took a break from cleaning, I'm sorry, and it was about, probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and something charged me from, I was sitting on the front porch, and you couldn't see, it was dark, couldn't see anything, and I could hear something running toward the house, and I tried to blow it off, you know how you kind of blow things off and think, you're kind of hearing something. Well, it didn't go away, and it got louder, and by the time it got to me, or toward me, closer to the porch, I had dove into the front door. It scared me to death. It scared me so bad. And my husband works. He works, so we try not to wake him up. And when I dove in the front door, I was screaming so loud I woke everybody up. I woke my daughter up. I woke my husband up. And they jumped up and come running to the front door, and we let the dogs out. Well, the dogs they went out the front door just wide open because they didn't know what it was. And they chased it around to the side of the house and in the backyard and through the woods. So it was pretty crazy and hectic, and I was screaming because I didn't know what it was. Well, then by this time I done decided that it was my neighbor and that somebody was staying over there that wouldn't account and was trying to scare us or something. All kinds of stuff was running through my head. Mm-hmm. So by this time, I had everybody up in the house, and we decided to fire a shot off and scare them, whatever it was. And so we did. Well, that didn't seem to make anything happen or scare anything away. And we started noticing that the more we sat out on the front porch at night. And what we did, we had started getting the porch ready because the baby was the baby was born in March. And this was right before, I believe, the baby, can't remember if the baby was born right here around this time when all this started happening. And we were trying to get the front porch ready so that we'd have a place to sit out and smoke because, I smoke, and I didn't want to smoke in the house. And we had been, cleaning the house out and getting, making sure we were painting and everything. And anyhow, we would sit out on the front porch more, and we could hear footsteps and stuff right here to the right of my house. It's probably about maybe 30 foot to, I guess it's what you call a wooded lot. And where that wooded lot is, we have to bush hog it. And there's a lot of trees. I wouldn't say completely, well, yeah, it's pretty thick with trees. And at this point in time, you couldn't see hardly anything through there on this side of the house. I mean, you could on the back side of the house. But across, then there's a road that comes in front of our house, and it's a private road. We actually are the only ones besides my uncle. He lives a couple lots down or in front of us. You get to his house first, and there's nobody besides us that lives back here at the end of this road. And there's a trailer across the road from us that no one's lived in for years, and it belongs to my aunt and her son. And it's just, the trailer just sits there empty, and it's in bad shape, and the back door, I think the back door's come loose, and I don't know if it's completely off or just open or something, but anyhow, there's that trailer over there, and we could hear stuff over there, a lot of movement over there and so forth. And one night, we walked out the front door, and the dogs were coming with us, and we were talking, not paying any attention to anything going on. And the dogs went crazy coming out the front door. They chased something to the trailer, and it went in the trailer and run through the trailer, and you could hear it, boom, 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 boom. Well, after that, I think that was it with the dogs. Whatever that was scared them, and they were pretty much done with chasing whatever it was. But the dogs had gotten, and this is over a period of time too. This is months.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
From the time you were charged to these other events, did it sound like 2 feet or 4 feet? Or could you tell?
It sounded like, that's a hard one, but I would say, hey, Megan, help me. When we were hearing all this walking around all the time, and it was real loud before they backed off a little bit, do you think that sounded like 2 feet or 4 feet? It sounded like 2 feet to me, the best I could. Yeah, we did think it was a person. She's right. So I would say 2 feet. Let me put you on.
Oh, okay.
My daughter can hear. I'm not too good sometimes at answering at certain things, but I would think 2 feet as well, just because we actually thought it was a person. We thought that there was somebody.
We thought it was a person.
Yeah.
That was back in, let's see.
That was
back in about
March, April.
March and April.
Yeah.
So pretty recent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this has been pretty recent.
It started after I came home from the hospital with my son. I haven't, he is about to be 6 months old, September 5th. He was born March 5th. And see, we started coming outside to smoke. We don't smoke inside with him. And that's about when it all started. It was around March, middle of March, beginning of March. Because we started coming outside to smoke. And we noticed, we used to have horses over here to the right of our house, and it's pretty much, we live in a wooded area. We have a small yard, but over to the right where we have a small barn, and it used to be a pasture for horses, but there's a lot of trees in there. It's not lots of grass and stuff. It's just it was a lot of wooded, thick brush area until we put the horses in it, and now it's kind of just trees over there. And we don't have horses anymore.
Okay.
But, there was, to the right of the house, there was about, I'd say, 5 foot tall grass and some brush and stuff over there, because where the horses used to be right there, all that manure is just so lush and green with vegetation now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that my dad has bush hogged it, they don't stay over there, because Dad finally bush hogged it after the 2 or 3 times of me being out in the yard and they coming up behind me and hiding in that grass. Yeah, and then me turning around, and there they were.
Yeah, that was scary.
That was really scary.
You just had the baby. I was going to tell him the next.
So the very first encounter that we had was.
I already told him about it. Charging me.
It charged Mom. That was the very first one, and see, she didn't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we were on the alert. We were trying to figure out what this was or who this was at that time, is what we thought.
And we were keeping all the doors closed and locked.
And before it charged Mom, I actually had told her for about, 2 or 3 weeks, I said, Mom, I feel like something's watching us.
She sure did.
Would you please
keep the doors
locked when you come in from smoking? Hello?
And she had told me, she said, I just have a bad feeling that somebody is watching us.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of odd. She said, I want you to keep the doors locked when you come in. Don't leave the front door open. See, I would leave the front door open. And, I agreed with her, and we were keeping it. I mean, we were really being careful. And even she caught me a couple of times saying, Mom, you left the door unlocked, little things like that. But I'm trying to think. the next one, trying to keep them in order, the things that happen. And sometimes it's kind of tough.
Sure.
Megan, when was the next?
Okay, so me and Mom, we were outside on the front porch. And we've been hearing something as always. And I said, let's go to the back porch, because we were on the front porch and we ran it around back. We knew we could hear it walking through the woods to the right of the house where the horse pasture is.
That wasn't the night it woke you up.
And no.
Okay.
And we went around back and we so we have a raised porch in the back, so you can see very well off in the woods in that pasture area over here to the side of the house. You can stand up on that elevated porch and see all the way off down in there, probably 300 yards off down in there.
It's almost as high.
And I said, Mom, we have run this thing back around to the front of the house. Let's cut all the lights off and run out and sneak out on the front porch and see if we can figure out who this is. So we cut all the lights off, made sure all the lights were off, run out on the front porch quietly. And I said, Mom, now shine the spotlight. We shined the spotlight, and she had the spotlight in her hand, the gun, and we shined it across the way right here, and there it was standing there. And I said, Mom, there it is, there it is. And she just she throws everything up in the air and goes, oh, what is it, what is it? Since she's trying to get to the gun as quick as she could. And
I thought it was a part.
I said, I don't know what it is, Mother, it's some evil. It's evil. It had no eyes. And it was really hairy. It had hair on the top of its head, hair from head to toe.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a white splotch on his chest. It was just full of hair from head to toe. And there was some tall grass as well across the way here. We've got an old abandoned trailer, 150 yards?
Yeah.
100 yards across the way right here.
I don't even know if that's 100 yards. But
yeah, I don't even know if that's 100 yards. And there he was standing to the right of that old abandoned trailer. And there was probably about 4 foot tall grass at the time. Now, Dad, since he bush hogged, he makes sure he keeps all that cut down so we can see and so that we're safe out here with the baby. That when we sit out here on the front porch and get going from our car to the front door at night and stuff like that. And the grass was about 3.5, 4 foot tall at the time, and he was crouched down behind that tall grass, and all I could see pretty much was just his chest.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one. And that was our first encounter, and we were just completely flabbergasted. We didn't know, and I was the only one that actually got a full view of it, and it was just for a few seconds. He was crouched down on 2 legs, and then we shined the light back after Mother finally got her bearings and was able to shine the light back. And in that 15-second period, he went from crouched down in the grass to all fours and with his back turned to us.
Oh, wow.
And then, yes. And see, we didn't know what it was. We thought it was something evil. And a friend of mine, she came over here, and her husband, he's very big into the Sasquatch. And
he knows Nate.
Oh, Nate. I'm talking about Nate. His wife came over here. And I said, we just got to talking, having us a little hen party. And I said, well, let me draw you a picture. Or I don't know, she might have said, draw me a picture.
Well, Nathan had asked for a picture.
And
what it was.
I said, okay. So I got one of those little drawing pads, and I just sketched her out a little rough drawing, a rough sketch. And she showed it to Nate, and Nate calls, Mom, do you know what you've seen? And we're like, no, we don't know what it is. What is it? And he said, that's a Bigfoot.
Well, that's what it looked like to him, because it did. And Megan didn't know anything.
I didn't know anything about it. I've never listened to any Sasquatch Chronicles, never watched any Sasquatch videos, no Bigfoot documentaries, nothing. I've never read anything about them, never watched any TV shows. I didn't know what I was drawing. I just was drawing what I saw.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And, yeah.
What did it do? Did it stay there or did it leave?
Oh, he turned around and left just as soon as we saw him.
And it left it left on all fours?
Yes, on all fours.
Okay.
Yeah. See, now at this time, I know that was a juvenile killer. And then, let's see, probably about a month later, maybe a month and a half,
Maybe it was within the next month. We'll put it that way.
Was that before or after I seen the one over here, and then it came around behind me on the...
That was before.
It was before?
Yes.
Okay, so me and Mom were on the back deck, and Nate was over here, and we had been showing some resistance, such as Nate had been coming over here and kind of going off into the woods and just looking for tracks and stuff like that, and we had put up game cams, and I guess they were kind of letting us know that they were there.
You didn't tell them you called the police after that happened that night.
Yeah, and that night that happened, me and Mom were so just upset about it. We actually called the police the night that I seen it across the road here.
We didn't know what else to do.
It's not really a road. It's more like a private drive, I guess you could say. There's a black asphalt road that runs into our old horse pasture right here. It's not really a road, like, with traffic on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little big asphalt.
It is a county road, but there's no traffic down here because we're the only ones that live here.
Yeah, we're pretty much the only ones.
But
yeah.
I called Morgan County and
So we called Morgan County that night, and
I thought it was a bear.
We thought it was a bear.
We didn't know what to say.
We didn't know what to say. We didn't want them to think we were crazy. You know, we didn't want to be on a crazy list.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we called and really need help, they say, "Oh, that's the crazy people. We ain't going there." You know?
Yeah, they think they're monsters or something.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know what it was.
Mother called the police, and this was about, I guess 3:30, and they ended up getting here at 3:45, 4 o'clock. And it was 3 of them, because I guess they come
Three carloads.
Yeah, 3 cars, the carloads. And they go over there just kind of piddling around out in the woods, and just 3 of them, they spread out about 10 to 20 feet from each other and shining the light up in the trees, looking for a bear, I guess, and shining it off into the wild blue yonder, just kind of having them a little sightseeing expedition.
They had the 3 cars in the yard with the blue lights going, and
they had it lit up like
that.
the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And they go over to where I seen it at. And you could see them. They was looking through it. You could see on the front porch of that old abandoned trailer, there's a window that's busted out. And then on the back porch, which is just like pretty much stairs going up to the back door, there is, that door is totally broken off. It's just a open door. There is no door on it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you hear them, boom, you hear something, boom, 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 running through that trailer. And then you see the 3 police officers jumping off that front porch, just jumping completely, not using the stairs or nothing, just jumping off over the rail and everything, running back up here in the yard. And we're like, what is it? What is it? And they said, oh, we've seen something. Whatever it is, it's got some umph to it. And then they went back, and I said, so you didn't see anything? They said an eyeball. They seen an eyeball.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so you don't know what it is? And they said, a really big raccoon. And then they go back out looking around.
Well, that's what they thought it
That's
could
what they thought it could
Or
be.
a wild dog.
Or a wild dog.
Or a groundhog.
No, they didn't say that. They said a possum. Or, you know, they didn't know what they thought.
Yeah.
But they were wide-eyed when they got back over here. They were wide-eyed. And they also, it's Patty.
I don't know, just ignore it.
And when they started back out into the woods right after this happened, they were so tight together. They were right up under each other. They were instead of 10 to 15 feet from each other, 10 to 20 feet from each other, no. Negatory, Ghost Rider. They were right next to each other. And then right after that, not even probably 5 or 10 minutes top, they run and jump back in their cars and leave.
Yeah, they left. They said, all of a sudden they said, what time is it? We got to go. And I couldn't believe it. Yeah, that they had to go. They had been here, which they had been here an hour or so, I would say. And no, they were here about an hour. I thought they were. They got here about 4:30, and well, yeah, you're right, because if they got here about 4.
We called about 3:30, 3:45. I can't remember exactly the time frame, but I know it was anywhere between 3 and 4. And right after they left, it was almost daylight. Yeah,
it was almost daylight, and the sun comes up around here at 5, so it was right close to 5 because the sun was about to come up. But yeah, that was the end of them. They were gone.
Wow.
They left. They're the ones, I thought, they would have something to say, like call, fish and wildlife, or something.
They didn't say anything.
Anything, because this had been going on, and this had been going on for a while. Something had been walking around and so forth, and this, that, and the other, and we didn't know what to do about it. We didn't know what it was, and we thought they would at least have something to say, some sort of advice, but they didn't. They said, just put up some game cams and see what you come up with. That was it. And that was after, that was after I asked. But after that, and she, I think, what was she going? She said was next. Oh, I know what it was. I was the one. I was in and out in the house and out and doing around, and my daughter-in-law was sitting on the front porch, and she was holding the baby. And Megan thought, well, while she's holding the baby, I want to vacuum my car. She had been talking about this all day. She wanted to clean her car out. Well, she pulled her car right up to the front porch, and we had a drop cord run out, and where she could put the vacuum cleaner, hook it up, and vacuum her car out. And she had my spotlight. Max had bought me, my husband, he bought me a spotlight so we would have a really good light to see what was going on and so forth out in the woods. And she had the spotlight, and it was dark. And but she had seen something across the road at the trailer. That's when she saw it again, right before all this happened with her car. And she said, and I don't know exactly what she saw, but she can tell you when she comes back out. But afterwards, she said, I don't care. It doesn't seem to want to be bothering us and whatever. I'm going to vacuum my car out, which was kind of dangerous, And while all that was going on, I was in the house. But anyhow, she went ahead and started cleaning her car out. And she had the spotlight, and she was picking up garbage and trash out of her car and so forth. And she said she felt like something was watching her, and her back was up against the end of the house where that grass line is, where my husband's now bush hogging. And the grass was probably, I would say, 4 foot high at that time. And she turned around with the spotlight, and it was at that grass line, which was probably 15 foot from where she was. And it was standing right there at the grass line. She said she could see its eyes, is all she could see, because it was hiding in that tall grass. But it was peeping through the grass at her. And she started screaming, and she's got the light on it. Well, I come around, and I grabbed a flashlight, and my son was in the house. His wife was sitting on the front porch. And he comes out with a light, and we tried to close it in. And I know that's dangerous now, but I don't know if we did or not, but we thought we had it closed in. And Megan was where the car was, which was right there, 15 foot from where it was standing. And I come out on the other side with the light, and my son had the other side. And I'm on the phone with Nate, screaming. We're all screaming and hollering, and I was telling him what was going on. And he jumped on his four-wheeler, and he was here in it seemed like it wasn't 3 minutes. And he comes flying down the road, which is Indigo Lane, that's what we call it, Indigo Lane, which goes straight back into the woods. He comes flying down that road on his four-wheeler and flies right down there in the middle of it. And he fired off a shot. He had lights on it, and he said all he could see was something running. And so, and the way I understood it to be was, running on 2 legs. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I'm pretty sure he scared it.
Want me to go over there and pick Johnny up and give him a ride to Kathy?
Well, tell him what you saw. I've already told the whole story except for what you saw over at the trailer before it come at you through the grass, or not really come at you before.
Yeah, me and Lachey, we was sitting out here on the front porch, and I had been trying to get my car cleaned out, or just vacuum it for about 2 or 3 days. And see, I've got my son, and there's no way, unless Lachey sits here and holds him, there's really no way that I can do it. So it was about 9 o'clock at night, and Lachey was holding it, was here, just having to be here, and she was holding him, which she's my sister-in-law.
I've already told her.
And I can say it in my own way. Now let me talk and tell my own story. See, you messed me up. And I was right here to the right of the porch, which is kind of probably 15 feet from that tall grass that's right here in the horse pasture. And it was about 5.5, 6 foot even at the time. The grass, now it's bush hogged. And I had that vacuum out there, an extension cord run to it, and I was going to vacuum, and I had the spotlight using it as a light to vacuum my car out. And I just had a feeling like I was being watched. And I shined the light. Previous to me going out into the yard, we had already shined the light and seen the set of eyeballs over to the left of the trailer, which was the first night that I seen it, was to the right of the trailer when I seen his whole body. Because there is a thicket to the left of the trailer, and it's all wood, and all I could see was eyeballs. And it was probably at least 7 foot tall, a 7 foot tall set of eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, you know what? I don't feel threatened. I don't feel like it's trying to come after me, or else it probably already would have. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish vacuuming my car out. I've got to get it done. It was just so dirty. And I had to do it while Lachey was here. And I was out there in the yard vacuuming the car out, and I had a feeling like I was being watched. And sure enough, I grabbed the spotlight, turned around behind me, and shined the light over in this tall grass to the right of the house, which was right behind me. I was on the side of the car that was, my back was turned exactly to that tall grass right here to the right of the house. And I shined the light, and there he was. That same set of eyeballs, the same exact set of eyeballs, but they were more like beady. It was like a beady set of eyeballs. And that was behind me. And I guess he was just like, what are you doing? Why are you out here in the yard at 9 o'clock at night with this loud machine? Like, we almost, I guess you could say, we kind of had a relationship going on. I know that's kind of weird or whatever, but they knew to stay back and to observe us, and we knew not to go in the woods, especially at night.
Sure.
And that's when I seen it, when I shined the spotlight on him, I seen those beady set of eyeballs. I just ran up on the porch, and Lachey, usually if we hear anything or see anything, she's running back in the house as fast as she can go, especially since she had the baby. She's usually the first one in the house. And when I said, oh my gosh, there it is, I'll run back in the house, and Lachey, she made sure she was waiting on me to get back in the house because I was out there in the yard with it. And then after that, me and Nate came over here, which was, I don't know how long after that it was, in the same month, you know. I don't think it was the same week, but it was in the same month. I'd say probably it was after we got back from the beach, which was the end of April. So I'd say April, I think it was around the middle of May when that happened.
Okay.
And then, the beginning of May probably, and then the middle of May was when me and Mom, we were on the back deck, and Nate was actually out here in the yard at that time, kind of just doing a perimeter check and just looking for footprints and just stuff like that, because we were hearing all kinds of stuff. We were hearing stuff walking. We were hearing stuff being thrown at us. We were hearing whoops and hoops and hollers. I mean, we were just having an amazing amount of activity.
All the time at night. Well, I say all the time at night. The walking and stuff in the woods, around and about would start sometimes an hour before dark.
Mm-hmm.
I could sit on the front porch and hear them walking. And then after that, after dark, you could hear stuff like that going on up until, and that would be, what do you call it, mediocre movement.
And then anywhere from midnight to 4 a.m.
And the midnight to 4 a.m. was wild. I mean,
they would get crazy. They'd be beating on the side of the house to wake me up. I think that night that we seen it, I was in bed.
Yes, he was in the bed asleep.
I was in the bed asleep, and I thought, I'm just going to go ahead and go to sleep. I'm tired. I don't feel like sitting up and hunting tonight. You know, even though we hunt.
We call it hunting.
We'd be sitting on the front porch just listening, observing. And, of course, I know while we were sitting on the porch observing them, they had to be observing us.
Yeah. And that night, she wanted to go to sleep. That night it woke her up. She wanted to go to bed. She said, I'm tired. And she had the baby and all, so that's understandable. She called me on her cell phone and said, Mom, she was so scared she couldn't get out of bed. She wouldn't get out of bed.
I didn't want to move.
Yeah, she didn't move.
My bed is, the headboard of my bed is on the very outside window. When I say to the left of the house and where that horse pasture is, my window is facing that horse pasture. And my headboard of my bed is up against that window that faces that horse pasture.
Yeah, which is about 10 foot to the grass line where they've been coming up.
Where they've been coming up into that grass, where me and Nate found all the trails through that grass. That's my dad bush hogged it. He had to. They were getting too close. That's where they were in that grass line that I was vacuuming my car out. That's where that big one was.
Yeah, right at the edge of that grass line.
And he was just standing there looking at me like, what in the heck are you doing?
But, yeah, she called me on her cell phone that night. She was so scared. And I said, that's the night we went on the back deck.
Called Nate. We told him, one beat on the side of the house to wake me up and that, you might ought to get out here. And he just lives right down the road, so he rode his Fuller over here.
No, that wasn't the night he come over, was it? No, he didn't come over that night.
Yeah, the night we seen on the back deck. He was out there.
Oh, yeah, that night, yeah. But, yeah, he,
we got back from the beach, which was the end of April. And we seen that one up here with the beady eyes at the beginning of May. And then about the middle of May is when we seen the back deck.
Yeah, because
and Nate, he was out here in, I guess you could say, to the right of the barn, which would be like the backyard. And we seen the one to the left of the barn while Nate was to the right of the barn. And that was when me and Mom were on the back deck on that raised porch. And my daddy had invested in us a really nice big spotlight. A really big spotlight. And actually Nate had my good spotlight at the time because he took our good spotlight, which was fine. He needed it because he was out there walking in the woods.
Yeah, and he was in the yard too
He was actually out in the woods when we seen this big, humongous behemoth of a beast. I mean, huge. It was ginormous.
Well, tell me how it all went to play.
So the way it all went to play, me and Mom were on the back deck just kind of watching Nate as he was walking through the woods, just making sure nothing, tried to run it behind him or anything. And I had another really good light. It was one of those good halogen bulbs. Like it's a really nice, bright light. And you can zoom it in or zoom it out. And I was just kind of watching. Nate was to the left, and I was kind of watching to the right for him, just keeping light on him, trying to anyways.
On the deck.
And we were up on the deck. And when I say you can see everything while you're up on the deck, it's because when you're up on the deck and you look off down to the right of the house in the woods, it kind of goes down at an angle. I mean, not a big angle. It's not like a big drop-off or nothing. Just slowly it tapers down. You can see everything off in there. And it's just trees and some shrubs and bushes and stuff like that, but not a lot of, like, thick brush because, see, the horses used to be there, and they beat all that out, walking and stuff. And we had heard this all night. We'd heard them walking. Like I said, it was the same night that they beat on the side of the house to wake me up. And Nate was over there walking, and I was just doing a perimeter check through the woods, just shining, looking for eyeballs as usual. That's what we would do. I would look for eyeballs because once you see an eyeball, you just can't miss it. And there it was, standing probably 75 or 100 yards off down in the woods to the left of the barn. And I said, "Oh my gosh, Mom, there it is, there it is." And she goes, "What? What is it? Let me see, let me see."
Yeah, I didn't.
And I said, she didn't really believe what we had seen because she hadn't seen anything yet. I had done seen it 3 times at this time, the 2 sets of eyeballs, and then that one time over here to the right of the trailer when I seen his whole body. And this is the biggest, brightest set of eyes I've ever seen in my life.
And I don't know if it was the moon or what, but you could see its head, the reflection.
You could see the outline of his head and his shoulders.
And he was absolutely ginormous.
When we say ginormous, I mean a behemoth of a beast. I mean huge. I mean 10 foot tall, 4 or 5 foot wide
It
chest.
reminded me, my mother always used to tell the kids when they were little, and she lived down at the river where everybody talks about the white thing. Everybody, they say it lives at this old graveyard down there. That's what's always been the story, which everybody always thought that was just, crazy. But anyhow, she would always say, "Y'all better be good or red eyes will get you." That's what she would say.
That's always been the old saying. And me and my brother, oh my gosh, we've been scared to death all our lives. Red eyes will get it.
This is what, when I saw it, after I saw it and calmed down and everything, it just, every time I think about it, it reminds me of my mother-in-law saying, "Oh, red eyes will get y'all."
This thing had bright red eyes.
And anyway,
and they were a perfect circular red eyes. I mean, they were huge. They were in between the size of a golf ball and a baseball.
But they were far apart.
Probably like a
golf ball, about a golf ball size. And you could, what happened when Megan saw it, she wasn't.
He knew that he was letting us see him.
Yeah.
Because, see, Nate had been out messing around. We had put the game cams up. We were starting to take action against them. Just letting them know, hey, this is our property.
Yeah,
this is our territory. We had shot a couple times. And he was just letting us know, hey, I'm here and I'm the big dog, because you could tell he was the alpha.
Mm-hmm. I don't think he had been
by the way he walked and everything. He was a predator. I mean, he was a predator.
Well, I don't know if he was just a big something or another, but he was letting me, I think he knew we were looking for him, and he was basically saying, well, hey, here I am, and there ain't nothing you're going to do to me, because look at me.
Look at me. And he knew that Nate couldn't see him, because, see, Nate was on the ground.
Yeah,
and when we're up on the porch, we're at least, 10, 12 foot up off the ground?
It's about 4 foot to the roof of our house, and our house is really, high up.
We have a nice brick house.
And we were up on the deck, and when Megan saw him, she said, "Come here."
And I was calm because, see, this is my 4th time seeing him, but this was the big, I was a little shaken because this sucker was huge.
And when she told me to come, I said, what do you see something? She said, come here and put your head beside mine.
And just look.
She wanted me to see it so I would believe her. And it's not that I didn't believe her, it was just hard for me to believe.
Hard to comprehend.
And I couldn't comprehend it. Well, I put my head beside hers, and it was like, it took my breath.
Mother said, oh, Lord, oh, dear Lord, help us, Lord, because that...
And I was screaming. I screamed after I saw it, and I got to where I could talk. I said, Nathan was going, what is it? He was down on the ground, and I was like, hurry,
run up here on the deck. And in order to get back on the deck, you have to go all the way around the swimming pool, all the way back up on the porch, all the way through a little gate we have to keep people out of the swimming pool part. So, I mean, by the time he got up there, he was already going.
Yeah. But
he timed it just right. He knew how long to let us see him so that Nate couldn't see him.
Yeah. And anyway, when he
they don't like Nate because Nate's not, scared of him.
Yeah, Nate's not scared of him. And he goes right up in on him. It's like he's not scared. But anyhow, when we both saw him, he stared at us for a few minutes, or however long it was.
It wasn't a few minutes. It felt like minutes. But he only let us see him for probably I had the light on him for about 15 seconds before Mother made eye contact with him. So it was probably a total of 30 to 45 seconds.
But,
and he walked a span of probably 50 feet in maybe 4 strides.
Well, I saw him.
Maybe 5.
When he decided that that was enough, he turned, and it looked like one turn, and he was gone out of sight. That's what it looked like to me. And
the way he moved, you could just tell it was
like his whole body turned.
It was so graceful for such a big creature. He moved like a cat.
Well, it was like he couldn't turn his neck. It was like when he turned his shoulders, his whole head and everything turned around. And when he turned around, I couldn't see him anymore.
Yeah.
But I went inside when this happened, and Nate got up on the deck, and I was sick at my stomach. And Nate was asking me stuff, and I told him, I said, I told him what I saw, and I said, I don't want to see another. I mean, I was sick at my stomach. I was so sick at my stomach. You know, I said, I don't ever want to see it again. And Nate looked at me, and apparently he told me, I don't remember when he told me, but he told me that usually when somebody sees one, that's what they say. And
I wasn't scared of it. It didn't bother me at all. I've seen it again the other night when I was out here a week ago, and there was one to the left of the trailer. But the eyes, instead of being round, they were more oval, like an egg.
And what I don't get, okay, and that night, well, I didn't tell you the rest of it. I went in and talked to my husband, and I told him what I saw, and I was
scared. This has been going on for probably, a few months, and Dad, he wouldn't really,
but I didn't
taking us seriously.
No, he
don't believe in Sasquatch, I guess you could say, but he knows we're not crazy.
He knows that we know that he believes that there is something out here.
There is something. He just don't know. He just can't say exactly what.
But I went in and woke him up. He was asleep because he had to work the next day, which Nate did too, but he was still trying to help us out. And anyhow, I told him, I said, Max, I said, you trust me. We've been married 34 years. I said, I wouldn't lie to you. And I said, he's laying there in the bed and he's looking at me, like, what did you see? And I said, I saw it. And I said, I saw it, and it's scary. And I said, Megan is still out there on the deck. I said, Nathan's out there. And I said, they've surrounded our house. And this is what I thought. I thought that was the man. There was something behind the house walking around, and I thought that it was the mother and the baby. And I told my husband what I thought, and I said, I'm afraid that it's going to try to hurt them to get back to the mother. And that's what I had in my mind that night, which I know that might sound crazy and off the wall, but I really believed that the mother and the baby was behind our house because I heard something back in there walking around. And at one time, they literally they had our house surrounded. It was like a playground at night. You could hear them. Oh, my gosh. You could hear them all the way around the house, which I just heard, And anyhow, my husband, I heard him he got up, and I went back outside, was checking on them. And I heard him downstairs, and he was his guns and stuff together. And we've got about 5 or 6, I don't know how many, ARs, like an automatic rifle. And he had gotten, I don't know how many magazines. He took it where Megan and I were standing. We showed him where we were standing. And he went there, right there at the side of the deck, and he covered that whole entire area, the woods. He was shooting magazines off, and I could hear him. He'd finish one, and he'd put another magazine in. He would finish. I think he emptied 9 magazines, so that's a lot. If I got that right, that's a lot of shooting. Well, I had not heard quite yet, and I had been trying to listen to things on the internet and, try to figure out what's true, what's not, what's believable, and so forth. And I didn't know that if you injured one at that time, I did not know that they get bit. I would have never asked my husband to do that or anything, which I didn't really ask him to do it, but I would have never wanted him to do that if I had known that if you hurt one that they get furious. So apparently he didn't hurt anybody. So because they just kept on. That didn't seem to slow it. That slowed them down a little. Not a great, not a lot. And the only time, let's see, yeah, they just kept on. Seemed like they just kept doing what they were doing, and everything just kept on going. And at this time, I took and covered my front door. I was taping up windows by this time. This is how scared I was. After seeing that, I had my front door taped up. I had my back door taped, both back doors. I had them taped up to where you couldn't even see in a crack. I had black garbage bags cut out, and I taped up over my kitchen sink. I had everything that I could. We would tiptoe at night. I mean, it had gotten bad. And I don't remember exactly what night or what had happened. It seemed like we were sitting out on the front porch, and we were hearing stuff to the point that we were scared and went inside. But we had went back. My daughter's, she moved out of her bedroom and moved in. I had fixed the nursery up, and she had moved into that room. There's 3 bedrooms on that end of the house, and then our bedroom's on the other end of the house. But those 3 bedrooms are on the end that's toward that grass line. And that night we went back there to one of those bedrooms, and we cracked a window in the bathroom back there. And that way we could hear outside and so forth, but we could smoke and so forth and back out the window if we needed to. Well, we were sitting in there listening to some stuff on the radio, and the dog was back there with us, and all of a sudden we heard like a growl that come from underneath the house, and it almost sounded like thunder. I mean, it was just because it was so close and up under us. And and a few minutes before this, we had heard something under the house moving, and I thought my husband had gotten up and walked down the hallway and used that bathroom in the hall. That's what I thought. But I checked, and he didn't, so we just kind of wrote it off. But when we heard that growl, and we sat there for, 3 seconds and just stared at each other. And I mean, we couldn't believe it. It was like something was under the house. And I called Nate and told him, and he said, I just don't think that could happen, you know. And I said, Nate, our crawl space is huge, and the door that goes under our house is off right now, and I've been telling my husband to repair it forever, which is repaired now. But the door was completely off, so there was a big, probably 4 foot by 3 foot hole up under our house. And it's right there up under that deck where he did all the shooting. Well, after that growl, the growl and stuff, the dog, which I thought I was trying to write that off as, just something else, I was trying to just write it off as anything but a growl. But after that, my daughter, when it happened, the dog goes to the vent, and my daughter's dog is so smart. She goes to the vent and starts cawing at it, like there's something in there. She was telling us there's something in there, and it scared me to death. Now my other dog, he's the male, and he was in the nursery laying down at the time. Well, he comes in there. He goes right to the vent too and starts sniffing, because he sniffs them. She will sniff them too. It's like they can smell them, but they'll throw their nose up in the air. And as soon as they come out, my dogs, as soon as they come out on the front porch, they throw their noses up in the air. And she'll do it more now, but he's usually the one that's been the one that throws his nose up in the air. And she'll look. It's like she looks and points where they're at. But they can smell them, and it's like they know to go off the porch or not. But he come in there, and sure enough, first thing he did was start smelling up the vent. So we were kind of really scared about that, but then we realized that it couldn't get in the house from up under there, or we hoped it can't. And also we just kind of let that go. We had to keep our sanity and to not be so afraid, because I had started getting to where I was terrified to even walk through the house at night. And my daughter, ever since the night we saw that, she moved into my room. She wouldn't even sleep back there. She had gotten to where she was so scared that we were all staying in my room. And my poor husband, I've got a king size bed and a recliner in there. And so I was in the recliner, and she'd have to get in the king size bed with the baby, because she'd have to put him in there between her and my husband. So we were all piled in there together, and just scared to death, And I'm trying to think. It probably within this time was when we had when all this started. We had went to Gulf Shores and took a vacation. And this is right when we were all staying in the bedroom. It was right after we saw it and everything.
July?
We went back to the Gulf, yeah. July. And we went April, May, June, July. No, it wasn't July. It was July, because it was our anniversary. Okay. The 1st of July. Well, we went to the Gulf for a week this time, didn't we? 9 days? No, that was first
9 days.
7 days. And I'm trying to think. Nate and Kathy, I'd asked Nate's wife, Kathy, to feed the dogs, and we were going to leave them inside, because they had gotten to the point at this time when we went to the Gulf. The dogs had gotten to where they wouldn't even hardly go off the porch to use the bathroom, and this had been going on for a while. And the dogs seemed to be terrified of whatever it was. So if one of them went, my rowdy dog, he would go off and use the bathroom only if Dixie would go first. It was like he wouldn't go without her, and vice versa. They just wanted to be together. They felt safer that way.
Safety in numbers.
And this is when they would go, it was so bad at this point. My sidewalk is right at the end of the steps. They were either using the bathroom on the sidewalk or in the shrubs. Yeah. So you can imagine how bad this was. And during the day, they had gotten to where they would get 10 foot away from the sidewalk, if and that's on a good day where they didn't smell anything, and they were together. But Kathy, I'd asked Kathy.
Now they have started to venture back out.
Yes, they've just now. But Kathy had agreed to come over and take care of the house and take care of the dogs, and also we went. We had already booked this vacation and all, and they come up here, and they had some
Kathy, when you would
crazy
come up here
sightings
in the afternoon, because you come up here probably 2 times a day, one in the mornings, one in the afternoon. And when she would come over here, she'd be in the truck, and she'd hear them growling at her, because I guess they knew that we were away.
Yeah, she couldn't come up here by herself, or
she wasn't. They thought she was an intruder. I don't know. Like I said, we have a weird relationship with our squatches. We don't want nobody to hurt our squatches.
Our Sasquatch, or we don't really want anybody to go try to rouse them up, because we live here. We live here, and they leave.
We don't bother them, and they don't bother us, really.
It
took a while to establish this relationship.
Yeah, this has been.
At first, they did not. They wanted to mess with us. They wanted, come and wake me up in the middle of the night. But now, they really have backed off. Every now and then, like the other night, I seen one over here to the left of the trailer, and it was a juvenile. You could tell it was a smaller one, and they were just curious. He was just curious. And heck, when I put the flashlight on him, the spotlight, he was like, uh-oh, his eyes got so big. He's like, I've been spotted. And he goes to the left, and then he turns back, and he moves his whole body. Moves his whole body to the left, which would be his right, my left. Turns and looks at me again, and his eyes got even bigger. He's like, uh-oh, ruh-roh.
That's why I didn't think it was a juvenile.
And he turns his whole body and looks at me again, and then kind of goes on all fours, I think, and slouches back off into the woods about 10 foot to the left, and then about 15 foot back, and I could still see his eyes shining. through the woods.
Yeah, well, he would turn around. But until the time we left, though, to go to Gulf Shores, it was still, they were everywhere.
They were very active.
They were very active. And the night that we were packing to go, we were leaving that morning about, which we ended up, we were supposed to leave about 3 or 4, but we didn't leave till about 9 or 10, I guess. It was about 9. But that night, it was about, I don't know what time, we were up all night packing and getting stuff ready and sitting out on the porch.
We wait till last minute to do anything.
Anyway, we were out, since we were up, we, of course, had the spotlight going, and she did. And
see, before we come outside, I always shine the light at night just to make sure there's not one in the yard.
Yeah.
Especially since Mom got charged that one time. So we always try to be on the safe side.
We check our perimeter. It's like there, if there was a bear.
Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
We try to treat it like, we've got a yard full of bears.
Yeah, you definitely want to do that and be careful. So what I've heard so far is you've done all the right things, to keep them, establish your territory and their territory. So that's very good.
Yeah. The night we were getting ready and packing and all, Megan she's shining the light out there, and I was still working. I was trying to get stuff ready and doing clothes and so forth, and she hollers, "Mom, I see eyeballs over here." And I said, "Well, that's awfully close. Are you sure?" So I have to get over there and look too. But before I even get over there to look, she said, "Oh, there's another eyeball." And there's another, and she's like, "There's 3 sets of eyeballs." I said, "No way." And sure enough, and they were right there at the same little hurdle of trees. And it was like they were crouched up around each other. You could tell. And one was looking out off one side of the set of trees. It was like 3 trees together, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And one was looking off the other side, and then it looked like one was crouched down, peeking around. And you could see one eyeball, and then occasionally you would see their other eyeball come if they got, brave enough to put their eyeballs or their both eyes out. But it was like one eyeball and a half eyeball.
We've seen so many different sets of eyeballs, and and that one time, I seen it to the right of the trailer, and the hair was covering his eyes. So I think it's almost like in that one time when we were on the porch, that was a big set of bright, shining red eyes. And then over here to the left of the trailer, that night that it came behind me when I was just cleaning my car out, that was more of a set of beady eyeballs. Like they were not as bright and round and shining. So that's kind of odd, that we see different. I don't know if it's because different times of the night, different lights make it shine differently,
That could be.
If one of them's bigger than the other, or something like that, that could be the case. But anyway, that night when we saw the 3, I went.
They were more of a beady set of eyeballs.
They were more beady.
They weren't the big, bright, round, shining.
It almost what we said. My daughter said, which it was just us here. She said it's 3 juveniles, and I agree. After I saw them, I was like, "Oh, it's just 3 little ones. Just, let's go finish packing and just go home."
Dad, he just happened to get up, I guess, to use the restroom, and we told Dad, there was 3 of them out here, and so he's going to get the gun, and I said, "No."
Yeah, we stopped.
No, don't you shoot those babies. No, absolutely not.
And we told her, but she doesn't, I told her they're not nice and sweet, and we know, she knows all this, but still, we got to learn to respect them because they've got to live somewhere, and as long as they don't bother us, I'm okay. When they start bothering us, I've got problems. And they were, at this point, they were bothering us, but they hadn't in probably a little while.
They just backed off.
Yeah, and I had already heard this is when I had heard all of this about if you harm them. I knew how that would go down. So
at this time as well, we had stopped hearing them stomping through the woods after we had shot a few times up in the air. It got to where it didn't faze them. But after we did, light the woods up with that automatic weapon, that one good time.
Oh, we didn't tell him.
Stopped them.
The last time that when they started backing off.
That night seemed to be
when they growled at it. when they growled at us.
No, that night we seen the alpha. My daddy went out there and emptied about 3 30-round clips out of his AR.
Well, I didn't seem to think that they backed off very much after that. When they backed
Yes,
off,
ma'am.
when they backed off a lot is my daughter and I were sitting out on the front porch, and we heard a growl out by the grass line.
Yeah, when we're on the front porch, the grass lawn that I was talking about, that's got that 5.5-foot grass.
Yep.
That's to the right of the house, and that's in that old horse pasture we have. And see, it's not a pasture. I'm saying a pasture. It's not a pasture. It's wood, and there used to be really thick brush through there, and now the brush is thinner because the horses have been out there for, we had horses for 3 or 4 years, and now it's just, it's kind of growed up now with briars and stuff like that, but nowhere near like it is the woods surrounding the area where the horses weren't. That's a lot thicker of an area.
But what had happened, I was sitting on the rocking chair at the end of the porch. She was sitting on the one toward the door. Well, I heard a growl, and I said, "Did you hear that?" And about that time, it growled again. And when I said, "Did you hear?" Yeah, it was way deeper, and
I cannot mimic it.
Well, there's no way we could mimic that growl. But when I turned to ask Megan, "Did you hear that?" You know how when you're older, I'm almost 50, so I don't hear and see well.
I heard that growl inside the bathroom.
Yeah,
at the vent.
So I've got this. I always ask, "Did you hear that?" It's gotten to where I say it way too often. But I said, "Did you hear that?" And I turned to look at my daughter, and she was diving at the door, and I was right behind her.
It was way too close for comfort.
Yeah, and now my husband shot that night. He unloaded the AR at the end of the porch out there, and that was twice. And that, to me, that was when they really backed off. And when they really backed off, I mean, the footsteps and stuff that we would hear, and the breaking of limbs.
And the dogs started going back out in the yard, using the bathroom.
Eventually, that was slow. That was a slow process, but they backed off so much to where we started coming out and being able to sit on the front porch with ease. And we had actually started doing that. We thought they had backed off. They had backed off a little bit, and we had actually started doing that a little bit. And that's when they growled at us. Mm-hmm. And after my husband shot that night, it was almost like they got the hint. It was like you back off, and this is our territory, and that's yours. Just back up and go on, and you stay to yourself, and we'll respect your territory if you'll respect ours, but this is ours. And I think that they got the picture because they backed off to the point the dogs are able to start playing again. And see, the dogs were playing that night that they growled at us. Mm-hmm. They were playing. And also, we had just got back from the goal.
That we've seen eyeballs like we did. It was the other night when I seen that set of eyeballs. And when I seen him, he was like, "Oh, I'm in trouble. I'm going to get the AR shot at me again." But, of course, we're not going to do that unless they pose a threat. We're not going to kill one.
Like growling or something like that, as long as they don't try to scare us. Because they had already started getting to where...
coming up behind me, while I was out there back in my car. And that's dangerous. This is too close for comfort. What if I was coming in one night and I had the baby? And, so we had to get them to do drastic measures then and get them to back off.
And I think the AR did that. Now, it had gotten to where and while all this was going on, before, they backed off.
When it first started happening, right after the baby had been born, like around, end of March, beginning of April, Mom has a 38 special. And I'll let her go ahead and finish telling you about that.
Well, I would just fire every time that they would pose a threat, and they would be out there walking and do something or get too close. I would fire my gun off into the air.
We thought it was a person at this time. We didn't know.
And at one time when we still thought it was a person, before she even drew that picture and sent it by Kathy for Nate to see, we walked down into the woods one night. I had my gun. She had the light. Just me and her. Because we thought there was somebody back there. A person. We had thought it was a person for a good while.
Trying to case our house out and then rob us or something.
But, after we had found out everything and all, I think they realized that we knew. And I mean, because
they're very intelligent animals.
Yeah,
Sure,
and
they
I
knew
believe.
you were standing your ground.
Oh yeah. I think that they realized that.
Hey, we might need to back up all these people. They know what they're doing.
Well, they had nearly taken over. They had our entire house surrounded, and there's woods in the backyard, which we have a yard, and then it runs into woods, kind of like the grass line starts here. It kind of runs all the way around. They were using that whole area, and across the road to the left of the trailer, they were using those woods. They were coming across the road. Me and her even found footprints where they were crossing. They were using the woods to the other side of the house to go all the way back, and they would have to come through our yard to go to the other woods. And then that was in the back of our yard, and then they could come around behind the shed and go to the other side where they stayed a lot. But they had gotten to where they were going in the backyard. That goes up and meets.
The shed, that's like the barn, because there's a shed and there's an old barn, like 2 little horse stalls attached to that.
And they would hide around behind.
It's just like a lean-to area that we use to make
it's more like a detached garage. It's about a 3 or 4 stall garage that we never have finished. 3 stalls.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lean-to with a little 2 stalls built off the side of it.
Yeah, when we had our horses out behind there at one time. But at one point in time, in the backyard, my backyard goes up and meets. My mom and dad, my backyard, it will go up and meet the back of my mom and dad's apartment. They have an apartment with a garage built on the side of it, and then on the other side is their house. They have a big house, which oh no, I didn't want to get too close into that. But anyway, the long story short, yes, and they would go up to the back up through those woods. It would run into the back of my mom and dad's apartment, and my mother
Granny can even hear them.
She was hearing them out there.
Because she was getting to where she wouldn't let Cash play out there close to the woods.
Which I told her, I warned her and told her what was going on. But my mother,
they like kids.
What had happened, I had noticed that they were going up closer to my mom and dad, and I told my mother. And I'll take it this way. I was going to tell my mother. I didn't want to scare her, but I wanted to tell her. And so when I called her and got her on the phone, I was telling her, I started talking a little bit about it, but I didn't start telling her about them being up behind their apartment. And she said, oh, I knew that they've been coming out here. And I said, Mother, how do you know? She said, I smelt them out behind the apartment.
And I put scraps out.
I thought, she smelt them. How does she know that they smell?
Got lots of cats up there, and of course the possums and the coons and the squirrels, and she feeds them.
She's been putting out food forever. I mean, a lot of food.
You know how the older community, that's what they do, scraps.
Yes, and they throw the scraps out, and I mean like a bucket of scraps. My mother would put out a lot of food, and she would laugh because she'd say she would be feeding her possums and her coons, and they even had a pet snake that would come up, and all these animals were eating her scraps. And I told her not long ago, I said, you're going to have to stop putting out those scraps. And she said, why? I said, because, Mother, you're feeding them. And she said, well, they've got to eat somewhere. I said, Mother, you do not understand what we're going through. I said, look, you're going to have to stop. It's because one day, if they're eating those scraps, I said, one day they're going to come knock on your back door and insist you put scraps down. I was trying to get her attention. And Tim had a stroke, and so she doesn't get around like she used to. She gets around pretty good, though. But I couldn't believe that she come out with that she smelt them back behind there, and because Mom didn't know that you could smell them. And she knew what they smelled like, which really shocked me. And she knew what they smelled like, not from hearing it anywhere, but from literally smelling them herself, from coming up behind the apartment. So they had been making a lot of racket out there, but our backyard, I'll put it this way, our backyard in the woods goes straight up to the back of their apartment. So the activity I was hearing a lot of out there was between my backyard and their apartment, and so they were staying out there a lot because we were staying in the front yard. Apparently they wanted to move and start making more noise out in the back. in the woods out there.
It's almost like a horseshoe, I guess you'd say, that goes around the back of our house, the side of the house where my window is, and then the front yard. It's like a horseshoe of wood. And in the middle of the horseshoe, that's where the horse pasture is.
And when we get off the phone, I can tell you our address, and you can Google Earth it. I think
Google
Okay.
Maps.
or Google Maps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
look at
and you
do
can
like
see
a,
it.
Yeah, Google Earth. That's what it is. You're right.
Yeah.
And do like a aerial view of it, and just kind of get a
Which I don't think
a
it
good
shows.
view of it.
It doesn't show it very well, but it
Yeah, it shows a
pretty
good
good.
aerial view, and you can kind of get a
But you know, pretty much that's it. I don't think that there's everything. I think we have experienced about everything that we can, except for them walking out in the yard and standing here and staring at us. You know, they have stayed, what do you call it, hidden or stealthy.
Mhm.
They have
Yes,
pretty much
we
stayed
found
that
them
way.
out, and we figured out what it was, and we were hearing them traipse into the woods like they just did not care. That has really, really stopped. I mean, every now and then you'll hear, but not like it was. They started getting stealthier. They started watching what they were doing because, see, they wanted to observe us. They liked watching us, especially me with the baby.
Especially when the baby was born. That was it was like when she would come out on the porch with the baby, it was everything. It was like you could hear a pin drop. It was like every eye was on her, and you could feel it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's my mom. I said, look, Mom, we've got to keep locking the doors. Make sure all doors are locked, all windows are locked. We got to make sure when you go outside to smoke in the mornings, sometimes you get lazy and just, walk inside and not close the door.
Yeah, I think
And
the
I
door.
told her, I said, you've got to shut and lock that door. I've got a feeling like somebody is watching it.
That's exactly right. Keep those doors closed and locked.
And what is so strange to me is how you can literally feel if they're here or not. It's almost like you can feel if you're being watched or not.
Mhm.
But now, since they backed off, it's almost like there's just one here all the time. It's like they're here day and night. And it's
Keeping
like
a
they're
close watch. Mhm.
Yeah, it's like we've got one watching us all the
Well,
time.
I know that when I come out here, I'm usually the one with the spotlight doing the perimeter check, and I let Mom handle everything.
I'm
else.
talking about it all day too.
I can take a flashlight and just about pick one out of the woods. It's like
Yeah, that's true.
it's like I know where they're at. I
Yeah.
know if one's out here or not, and that's just the crazy thing. That's the craziest thing.
Yeah, she can be. Don't take her long either. She can spot. And that eyeball she found the other night, that set of eyeballs they were pretty big.
Huge and bright.
Yeah,
Oh my
baby.
gosh, so bright. And
Go ahead.
Well, I was just today. I'm planning on keeping a close watch on what's going on there through Nate, and monitor things as they progress. And if you guys need help, I can definitely give you some advice that will keep them away. But you're doing a good job so far with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I tried to
I was
explain.
actually going to tell you something when you mentioned Nate. Nate was over here the other night, and we've heard all kinds of different crazy vocalizations. But this one was the wildest of all.
Yes, it was.
Nate was out here to the right of the trailer. There's a gate to the right of the trailer where that horse pasture used to be. See, there's no fence or anything now. It's just open land. And Nate was down there to the right, probably 50, 100 yards to the right of the trailer off in there. And there's a trail about 15 yards from the edge of the trailer that goes all the way back into the woods over there to the adjacent property over here, way behind the trailer, a good ways away. But along that trail is all I can guess. Nate was over here kind of doing some wood knocks, and I was really kind of we were kind of getting upset. We were like, Nate, don't do that. It'll call them in. We cannot do that. We've got them off of us now. Let's not start it back up and get them riled up.
Right.
So he stopped that. But when he was doing that, it was like I thought when I heard it, it was like a trill, like a high pitch, not a high pitch, but it was a higher pitch,
Almost,
like a
yeah, like that, almost like a.
But you could
an
tell
animal.
it's coming from like the throat, not from like the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm doing that
It
with my
was
tongue.
different. She's trying to do it, but it's nothing like
It's
that.
nothing like that. It's like a. And the way it sounded to me, I said, that sounds like a Sasquatch doing a distress call. Like a juvenile female Sasquatch doing like a distress call saying that she's being surrounded or that she feels uncomfortable and is calling for help.
Could very well be.
It's crazy how you can almost understand what they're saying.
Yeah, it is sometimes. Well, my daughter she's more in tune, and you know, me and her both are pretty good about stuff, but
and intuitive about things, like the being watched and stuff like that.
But I have to explain to people, it's not like something you can come out here and just sit on the front porch and all of a sudden witness everything. This is a period of months,
of 6 months,
of months
we've been doing this.
Porch. I can't tell you how many numbers of nights that we stayed up and watched the sun come up, especially right after the baby was born, because he was up a lot. And we had this going on, which had us riled up to where we couldn't sleep anyway. And we would sit here on the front porch all night long trying to figure out who was watching us and who was in our woods, who's walking, who's even, who is this? And we were up, and I called it, we
sounds were here
joking around, we would call it hunting. Because we felt like we were hunting all night long.
Dedicated to what we were doing.
We were very.
To know who was this surrounding our property. What were they doing? Why were they here?
And we have hours and hours and days and invested in it. You know,
and time.
When you put all that in, you get to know their patterns. You get to know exactly. When they come out, you know their sounds,
almost their personality.
Yeah, almost their personality. I mean, seriously.
Which area of the woods they like to observe us from.
Yep, everything.
You can feel them watching you because they want to know. They're curious.
And they like, at the beginning, they like to throw stuff at us. They'd sit us on the porch, and they'd just sit and throw stuff at us. And we just wrote it off as a squirrel being up in the tree. And then Megan got to saying, there's not any squirrels up in our tree, And eventually we knew that, and this was before we had ever heard that about anything about a Sasquatch throwing anything at you. This is before this. And when Kathy come over, they're moving over there. When Kathy come over, we were telling her something has been throwing stuff at us. We just laughed it off. We had no idea, and we didn't want nobody to think we were crazy. And so we told Kathy, because she's a good friend. She would never, make fun or whatever and think we were crazy, because she's just a good person and a good friend. And when we told her that, apparently she knew that Sasquatches throw stuff at you. We didn't. She didn't tell us right then. She went home and told Nate. Right. And then, Nate wanted us to listen to a podcast. So when we were sitting and listening to this podcast, and it was everything we were going through. It was throwing stuff. It was everything. And me and her was just sitting there, and our eyes was so big, and we were just staring at each other like, oh my gosh, wow.
Right.
This is exactly what's been happening to us. Exactly. Something's throwing stuff at us. All this weird stuff was happening to other people. And then we listened to this show about these people that would literally go into the woods and camp out around the Sasquatch.
With audio and stuff like that.
Yeah, and one of them had thrown a rock at a girl, and it broke her collarbone. And I don't know if this is true or not, but this is what we were listening to. I don't know what it was exactly, but it sounded true to me. And they said that when they threw the rock, and it hurt her, that one of them went like, oh no,
I didn't mean to hit her.
I didn't mean to hurt her, and that meant in their
it upset him.
Yeah, it upset him, but it meant in their culture or whatever.
This was the guy's theory on it, that whenever someone hurts one of their own, that it means war.
It means war, yeah. And
so he knew that he had hurt a female human, and he thought, oh gosh, I've started war, because see, they were friends. These guys would go out there and camp. It was called the Land Between the Lakes, the LBL. I don't know where that is or what that is.
Yeah, we don't even know what that is. And
they would go out there and camp, and they had done this for probably a year or longer. And they usually would bring food and treats for them.
But
they forgot to bring treats.
Oh,
and it upset them.
But we were learning not to get into their story, but we were learning things that they would do from the things that they were telling. And
from other people's encounters.
From other people's encounters, exactly.
Stories. And it was just really cool to sit there and be like, wow, we are not crazy.
Yeah.
No, these details repeat, from case to case. I've heard thousands of them, and believe me, you're not alone. I am going to need to run, but I'm going to have Nate give you my contact info, email, and phone number, and keep in touch and let me know what's going on there.
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
Well, we're tickled to death that they backed off right now, and that we pretty much just want to have our them respect our territory, and we'll respect theirs, and that's all. As long as we've got that.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Take the baby inside. It's very nice talking to you.
Yeah, it was nice talking. Well, I think most of the time we just talked and you listened, but.
Well, I certainly appreciate you telling me what's been going on there, and I think it's important to let people know that you're not alone. The things that are happening do repeat. This is we're talking about a flesh and blood creature, so what happens in one place in one circumstance is repeated in many cases.
Yeah, that's true. And the more we thought about it, Megan went back. Even after we started all this, we realized what was going on. We had somebody say, they've probably been there for years, and you just didn't realize it. We started thinking about it, which I don't know why that they started getting to where they weren't as afraid. I don't know. It's probably because of the baby. Is all I can figure. Mm-hmm. But when my daughter was little, she used to complain all the time about somebody was tapping on her window. Mm-hmm. And we remembered that come out. And, it was just little things. And a lot of times I would feel like somebody was watching us. But I did want to tell you this before I let you go. Here this past week, I've had, and I've never seen this before, but I've had 2 encounters with a deer coming right up to the same place both times, to the grass line right here at the yard, and they act like they're not afraid of us. They'll come out up nearly to the yard. Right, that grass line is right here at the yard.
Like they're running.
Well, these things hunt deer, so the deer will probably come closer to people for protection.
Yes, you're so right. Oh my God, you're so right.
The first thing I thought when I saw it, I thought they act like they're trying to get away. It acts like it's trying to get away from something.
Yeah, no, I've heard this quite a few times.
Really? That they are trying to get away from them, so they come up to people's yard?
I'll give an example. There was a guy back in 1988 who I interviewed. He was charged by one in the middle of the afternoon in an area. They heard it screaming coming up the ridge. His friend took off running to the car. He was thinking it was a bear, didn't want to encounter a bear, but obviously a bear isn't screaming like that. But they did catch a glimpse of it a ways off, and it was a dark, hairy thing. They thought he thought it was a bear. So anyway, shortly before the creature appeared out of the tree line, a deer come running out of the same spot, ran right up to me, said I could have reached out and touched the deer. It acted like I wasn't there. And then heard one last scream. The deer bolted, and this thing came out, saw him, and made a dead run at him. And he said, I think I must have been in shock because I just stood there. The creature ran up to within about 10 feet of him, stopped, and they stood there and stared at each other a few moments, and then it kind of turned and walked off into the timber. So just one example of, where deer will kind of run towards humans in a case like that. Almost out of, like it was trying to, maybe thought it was being protected or maybe just, out of their territory.
Well, my husband's a big deer hunter, and he's been trying to get them to come up into the woods right here next to our house for years, and he's put out corn. He puts out corn for them.
We don't really hunt around the house. We just
we just want the deer to come up, so it'd be something pretty, just come walk around in the yard. That'd be great. So he's been putting corn out for a long time. It's like hard kernels of corn, I guess. Would that be a food source for them, for
sure.
the Sasquatch?
They'll eat just about anything.
Well, somebody had give him these big, huge barrels. They're like plastic barrels. They look like they're just big barrels. And they're probably, how big are those things? They're they're about 4 foot high, and I couldn't put my arms around them.
A big drum.
Big drum.
Probably 55-gallon drum, more than likely.
He probably had 4 or 5 of them out here in the shed that he would use that corn to put out. And it's right here in the shed. And see, they stayed at the shed. You could go around the back, and there would be one making movement and sounds and noise around there at the shed nearly all the time at night.
Sure, they're coming in for an easy meal.
Yeah, probably so. But my husband, when I told him about the deer the other night, the dog run at it, kind of come out and scared it off, and it run across the road behind the trailer. And then the next time one come up, it wasn't scared, and it just kind of just stood around, and the dog was on the front porch and didn't chase it, and it just kind of, walked around. And I hollered at my husband, and he was so excited, wouldn't come back again. And he said, I'll have to put some more corn out. He still doesn't believe it. He doesn't think it's a Sasquatch. He doesn't think there's any such thing. He thinks it's bears, and that she saw a bear, and that was bears walking around out here the whole time. And I'm thinking, we set up night after night and never saw a bear. The bear, what was walking around, never came out into the yard, and walked around like a bear would. Never bought our trash. Nothing that a bear would do has this thing done or these things done. So I don't know. But anyway, he has his own view until he sees one. I don't think he will ever believe that. But that's to every person their own opinion, and
until he sees one.
Yes, until he sees one, exactly. And I hope that he doesn't, in a way, because, I hope he sees one to where it won't be to where it would hurt him, but I'm afraid that if he sees one, I don't think he would do it, but he says, well, if I was to ever see anything like that, he said he thinks he would tackle it and try to run it off. And I'm thinking, me and my daughter's both sitting there just staring at him like, yeah, right. I hope you change your mind when you see this.
Especially that big one we've seen out back.
Yeah, that was scary. But we don't want to keep you. I don't want to keep you. I know you've got things to do and all, but we appreciate you and anything you can help us with. Or
absolutely. And like I said, I'll have Nate give you my contact info and keep in touch with me, and I'll help you out any way I can.
Great. And Nate's been wonderful. He was the only thing that we had. The only thing. Anybody that we could call him anytime, night or day, and he was there for us. If we ever called him with an emergency, he was here in minutes.
He was here.
And to have somebody like that, and my husband, he loves us, of course. And he believes that we saw something, but not to believe that there was that much of a threat or danger at that time.
Right.
And Nathan did. Nathan knew what the danger we were in, and so he would tell us what to do, or
It was all kinds of shots. It was just so great to have him there for us.
I don't know what we
would have done.
Yeah.
We would have probably been in a worse situation, and be in a really, really bad place if it hadn't been for Nate.
And Kathy's she's amazing. She would come sit on the porch with us at night and sit with us a lot. And that meant a lot to have somebody else. Strength is in numbers, and we wouldn't sit out here. We would when she was here. So that was great to have friends and neighbors like that to help us.
No, that's very good.
Yeah. So, anytime though that you can offer any advice for us, or anything,
Absolutely.
There for a while, we wanted to put up motion cameras outside to see if they were coming through the yard at night.
I would suggest doing that. Yes.
Well, we don't have Wi-Fi, and where we live, we have Verizon, and our Verizon carries a mobile hotspot, which we have unlimited text and data and mobile hotspot. So we can turn mobile hotspot on, but you have to have mobile hotspot on and your phone plugged up to a charger because it makes your phone gets hot, and that's just to work a computer or a laptop or anything that needs Wi-Fi.
Well,
and it's not a real Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you can get just a regular motion sensors though, and hook them up, and that'll keep them at bay. Also, the motion sensor lights.
Oh yeah, the motion sensor lights. Well, I have fog lights, and we had been told to get those. Go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get what they're called booger lights. I don't know if they're motion censored or not. We still haven't put up any extra lights. We put bulbs in these. We try to keep our fog lights. It's two big fog lights on two big bulbs on each corner of the house, which those are pretty bright, but they're still not as bright as what we need. We need to light it up like a football field out here.
Right.
That's what we really need to do.
Well, I'll be sending you some information, things that'll keep them where they are.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creek Devil. If you or anyone you know has had an encounter with these creatures, please contact us at williamjevning@yahoo.com. That's William, Jevning, @yahoo.com. All communication is confidential. Join us for another program next week. And until then, keep your eyes open out